Hey, Trucker Todd here. Time for another video. This is genius. As you know, ELDs were recently mandated. For those that don't know what ELDs are, it stands for Electronic Logging Devices. Now, up until a few years ago, people were running paper logs, and there was a lot of problems with people falsifying their logs, not filling their logs out correctly. And so in an effort to improve compliance, they come up with these electronic logging devices that monitor your truck when it's moving, things like that. Now, unrelated to this video, I read an article earlier today that they've had reports of Canadian drivers figuring out ways to falsify their ELDs, and DOT's looking into that. I'm not going to do that article today because I have a much better one for you. So let's talk about ELDs. The big problem with ELDs is the rigidness of it. There's no flexibility. It goes down to the second, and violating your logs can get you in big trouble. And so a lot of people don't like it because if you pull over and take a 2-minute nap in the afternoon, say you're getting a little heavy-eyed, it actually counts against your 14-hour day. You're almost being de-incentivized to pull over and get rest when you need it. Or if you've got a pet with you and they need to pee and you pull over for 15 minutes to walk them, let them use the bathroom, that's actually counting against your available work time for the day once you've started your clock. Now, there is an exemption in there for unforeseen circumstances where you can extend your day by 2 hours, but it's got to be unforeseen. Bad weather is not unforeseen. With internet now and everything, storms are rarely a surprise. We usually know they're coming, so it was originally intended for that, but it's really not very useful for anything beyond if there's an accident on the highway and the road's shut down. That's kind of unforeseen. So a lot of people rarely, if ever, are able to use that 2-hour extension. Before we go any further, before I read you this article, a couple of things I want to tell you. For one, I'll put a link to that article below in the description. You can go read the article yourself. Also, you can leave comments below. Tell me what you think. I'd love to hear your opinions. Also in the description, if you want to know more about going to work at Roadrunner, or better yet, if you want to do an application, there will be a link in the description for that as well. And also my email will be there if you need to contact me directly with more questions, or if you want to discuss this ELD situation more in depth. Also, like and subscribe to this video. Give me that thumbs up. If you absolutely hate it, give it a thumbs down. But share it with other people that you think might be interested in this information, or share it on your social media platforms. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into this video. So let's start by talking about when I was reading this. I was eating breakfast a minute ago, and I was reading this article. I remembered back, and it's been quite a few years ago, before APUs really took off. For those that don't know, that's an auxiliary power unit. It has heating and air conditioning, and it basically is a small engine that runs on diesel that allows you to have heating and air and electricity when you're parked without idling your truck. Before those came out, or before they were widely popular, let's say, people used to idle their trucks for heating and air when it was hot or when it was cold. A lot of the states started coming out with anti-idling laws that limited you to 5 minutes or 15 minutes of idling. There was a lot of citations that were issued for those that idled. And so the only exemptions were if you had a pet on board, or if you had a medical device such as a CPAP machine. I always thought this was strange that they didn't care if you slept comfortably so you could drive safely, but if you had a pet on board, then it was okay to idle. It could be 100 degrees out and they didn't want you idling, but if you had a pet on board, they wanted your pet to be comfortable. I always thought that was a little weird, but it was just one of those things. It's the way it is. And I think sometimes, this is just a side note, that we treat our pets and our plants better than we treat our people. And so anyway, there's a new proposal from a company called the Small Business in Transportation Coalition, SBTC. And basically what they're saying is if you have a pet on your vehicle, they would like an ELD exemption that would allow you 2 extra hours a day, because they say you got to walk your pet, let it out. They think it's cruel to have your pet work 14 hours a day, or with you 14 hours a day, and they know some drivers aren't stopping and letting their pets out during that time. While I like this proposal, we get a 30-minute break every day. I don't see why you couldn't walk your pet during the 30-minute break. But I do think this idea is genius, and I'd be curious to see what you guys think about it. I actually got this article from a website called transportationnation.com. And the title of the article is Trucking Group Seeks Relief from ELDs for Truckers with Pets and Service Animals. All right, here we go. Well, it scrolled ahead too far. A trucking group has petitioned the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, also known as FMCSA, to provide regulatory relief for truckers who travel with animals. Last week, the Small Business and Transportation Coalition filed a request for exemption, and they call the request for exemption RFE, on behalf of truckers with pets and service animals, asking the FMCSA to provide humane relief from the electronic logging devices mandate. Instead, the SBTC is asking that these drivers be allowed to track their hours of service with paper record of duty status logs. So this would almost eliminate, well, I guess it would eliminate ELDs, and they're saying, hey, if you got a pet in the truck, you should be able to do paper logs. And you'll see in a minute they want the 2 extra hours a day that was previously reserved for unforeseen circumstances. This latest exemption is predicated on the fact that livestock haulers have been granted a statutory exemption and do not have to comply with ELDs. SBTC President James Lamb explained to Transportation Nation Network, "We believe encouraging more frequent breaks to allow drivers' pets to urinate and exercise more frequently is both humane action for FMCSA to take and the right thing to do by public safety." Now, I'm not sure what public safety and my dog using the bathroom have in common, but I think it's a great idea. I don't know why we're limiting it to pets, though. If it's a great idea to allow 2 extra hours a day so your pet can go to the bathroom, I think it's a good idea to allow it for everybody. So if you want to take a 2-hour nap in the afternoon, you can still run your hours. But anyway, let's take what we can get. Further, the RFE asked the agency to give drivers the flexibility to extend their hours of service daily driving time up to 13 hours and their total on-duty time up to 16 hours each day. We also cite the FMCSA's rule that drivers can drive an extra 2 hours whenever they are faced with adverse driving conditions. That's the deal I was talking to you about a minute ago, the unforeseen circumstances. To find safe harbor, SBTC contends the same logic applies. If it is safe to drive an extra 2 hours so drivers can slow down and not race the clock when faced with snow and ice on the road, then it logically follows that it is safe for drivers with pets to slow down on rough roads to protect the health, safety, and welfare of their passenger pet companions without sacrificing productivity, Lamb asserted. So they're not worried about if you're going down let's use the exact terminology here. They're not worried about if you're going down a rough road, but they want to protect the health and safety of your pets if you're going down a rough road. So, like I said earlier in the video, I think sometimes we take better care of our plants and animals than we take care of our fellow human beings. Man, my tongue is not working this morning. All right, let's go on down into this. We're almost done. Lamb is confident animal rights groups will support this effort after learning more about the issue. We believe animal rights groups will join this battle when they hear how dogs and other domesticated animals are afforded a mere 30-minute break out of 11 hours because of the severe pressures exerted on company drivers by dispatchers and on independent owner-operators by brokers and shippers focused heavily on productivity and meeting rigid time schedules, he stated. Okay, so I'll be curious to see what you guys think about this. Again, I think it's great. Anything we can do to get more flexibility in the ELDs. I'm not sure if they're ever going to allow anybody to go back to paper logs, but I'd be real curious to see what you guys think about this. So I wanted to say one more thing I forgot to say. I've edited this in. Hopefully it doesn't look too bad when you're watching this. But what do you think this effect will have with companies? Do you think, first of all, do you think this will go through? If it does go through, do you think companies will prefer drivers with pets? They'll be able to get 2 more hours a day out of people in some cases. So that's another thing I'm curious to see is how companies will respond to this. With any law, with any action, there's a reaction. And, anytime they pass a law, just like we was talking about earlier about the Canadians that are finding ways to cheat on their ELDs, there's always a reaction. And I'll be curious to see what the reaction is here. Are companies going to start wanting to hire people that have pets more than people that don't? Will there be companies that are offering increased pay for drivers that have pets? So leave me a comment below, shoot me an email, tell me what you think, and we will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.